How are you, my friend?
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Good, you?
All right, all right. So, just got a call from that 347 lady, 347-777. And she's like, she's like, nobody ever called me back, and they were rude to me and whatever. So I just want to, I don't want to go into what that is because I don't want to do it on the recording, and I'm not upset at anybody because she had this, but I just want to be clear. We just have to be very careful when we're dealing with people because she's like, well, do they not want to show me the place? Da, 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 da. I said, ma'am, I said, no, they
No,
want
they
to
were.
show me the place.
Yeah, she's the one that said that didn't want to sign a buyer's agent agreement.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
And I
That's
told her, the PAR rules, I have to get a buyer's agent agreement before I could do a showing. And my broker also advised that, and she said she didn't want to, wasn't comfortable doing that.
okay. All right. Which that's kind of what I figured. So, all right. So I mean, that's no big deal. So, did you get everything signed by your buyer and back over so we
Yeah,
can
I,
get
I
the deal?
sent it. I sent it to him for signatures. He said he's in a meeting, so once he's done, he's gonna sign it in a little bit.
Okay. All right.
But I sent you the AOS and I sent you the BAC as well.
Okay. All right. That's cool. So we'll get. So yeah, I'll just wait a little bit more for the other thing, and I just want to make sure I have everything when I go to her with it. But and I'm trying to. There it is. Is that it? I'm just trying to find my buttons.
I texted him as well when I could pick up the 10 grand EMD,
Yeah. Okay.
so he's gonna let me know as well.
All right.
If I get it, you want me to drop it off at the office or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. You drop it off the office. He can wire it to me. Whatever. That's fine.
okay.
Um, all right. So basically, so I just wanted to kind of you have any other questions or any other kind of whatever?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, he said that he uses a Tiger Abstract, but he said we could use whoever we want.
I mean,
So,
I don't
what do
care.
you?
I've heard of Tiger. I've never used them.
Is he good or he said if you want to use somebody else, we could use him. It doesn't matter. But
No, I always let the buyer choose the title because if something goes wrong, then they're not blaming us for that too.
okay,
It's like if they're happy with with an abstract company. Yeah, so basically, I mean, this one went reasonably well. Yeah, I think you did a great job on it. So for
thank you.
everybody else listening, just kind of cover the public side of it. We had so 74 Matthews started out as a wholesale. I actually picked it up and thought it was gonna be a quick flip. Didn't realize how not wonderful the property was physically. We tried it for a couple weeks, and we finally called the lady and said, "Listen, no one's getting out of the water on this one." And so, we flipped it over to a listing. I turned it over to Jose, and he did a great job getting it out there. And we finally got a buyer, not where the lady wanted to be, but where she was acceptable at. And because this one was, I mean, we always got to be careful with all of our paperwork because the state is like has a laser focus right now, and so does the board. And Jose, I know you got pinched by the board for something. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. But I was fighting back with them, and I think I checked my account yesterday when I paid my dues, and it wasn't there anymore. I told him it's pretty stupid because it was my first offense, and I told him I even sent them a screenshot that I was using the voice to text, and they had typed it out for me without my consent, and
oh, okay.
so they were able to remove it.
What did they? Oh, yeah, yeah. Because they nailed you on. They thought you mentioned something about commission or whatever. Well, they
Yeah,
hit me. I sent out an email a coming soon because I'm in the middle of this hellish flip that I didn't actually want to get involved with. And I was like, all right, let me do a coming soon email to let everyone know because it's getting later in the season. And not 10 minutes after I sent out the coming soon email, I got a threat letter from the board saying, I mean, automated, sure, automated, saying you need to have this listed within 24 hours or it's an instant $250 fine.
yeah. I've done the same thing as well. They said it's a fine or something, but it's pretty
Yeah.
stupid. I mean, we're just trying to advertise the property.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, I think most of this goes back to the settlement, which was a complete cluster anyway. But anyway, so basically, we just have to really be careful, and especially because this one was an estate and a trust, and there's an attorney, and she's not happy with her attorney. which you didn't know that part, but it's just she's not happy with the attorney. She's looking at another attorney to trying to fix the whole thing, which I think she's taken care of. She hasn't mentioned that to me in a while, but basically, I'm like, okay, so we normally have to be really careful with our documents, but we have to be extra really careful with our documents now. So, that's why it was sort of like, okay, even now, like we need to kind of, getting all the ducks in a row and whatever. But basically that's why everything, and that's why always on the buyer and seller, before they sign the AOS, we need to make sure that the seller sees that the buyer signed the disclosure. We need to make sure that the buyer has gotten their buyer agency agreement, which you have to be very careful with those, because zip forms have been running funny, and I know you had to even do it manually. It doesn't always do the math right. So always the point of a buyer estimate of closing costs or a seller estimate of closing costs, in my opinion, this isn't the training, but in my opinion, the point is to scare them. So, meaning if we think it's going to be, 75,000 plus 2,000 out the door, but we really don't want to show them 2,000 out the door. We want to show them 6,000 on top out the door or something, because you want them to know. Basically, you never want them to come back and say, "Oh, you told me 74, and it was 82." You want them to come back and say, "Oh, you told me 82, and I only spent 74." You want to, on the buyer side, you want to make sure you always estimate, in my opinion, a little high, not stupid high, but I do. It's a 2% transfer tax area. So I always estimate 1.5 each side. That's really 3%, but they won't yell at me if it's lower. Yada, yada, yada. So the point of the estimate of costs, besides covering our own butts, which is like 95% of this job, is letting them know, hey, listen, you're buying the bottle of water for $1. It's going to cost you more than $1 out the door. Okay, not water, because water is food, not taxed in PA, but whatever. You're selling the shirt for $1, but it costs you money to make the shirt. So, Mr. Seller, you're not really going to get $1. You're going to get something less. And even with the estate, and did you ever get something from the seller about what was actually wrong with the house? So we just make sure we've told your buyer.
No, I even messaged her Sunday night, and she said she was gonna get something from me. I didn't haven't heard back from yesterday.
All right, so basically, we've provided, in that case, you've told your buyer about. I mean, of course, your buyer is an expert anyway, but you've told your buyer about the heat, about the air conditioning, and things aren't hooked up. And he knows what he's getting, and we've shared what we know, which is very, very little. In the estates, and I haven't gone to PAR hotline on this to see if I'm actually totally right, but the estates pretty much are. They still got to initial every page of the disclosure and sign the bottom, but really that first page exemption kind of gets them out of jail free.
Yeah.
It's weird estate, and now if it turns out they're not an estate and they signed that fraudulently because this is being sold by a trust and we were told it's an estate, but whatever, But at the end of the day, as long as we've gotten our paperwork and we've parroted to the all parties everything equally, that's all we can do. And there is a document that we get, and you can have your guys sign this whenever, that just says basically it's really a chat GPT that I wrote. All information we've given is the best of our knowledge, so on and so forth. Don't blame the broker is basically what it boils down to. Don't blame the broker, don't blame the agent. And the reason for that, and I'm just going to turn on my screen here and try to. I'm just going to I'm just going to open a blank window and kind of share something here. The reason for that is that I'm trying to think of what I can. Okay, so I'll just show it on here. So if this was the road that this house was on, and this was the house I was selling, it was a double. So it was 129 something in Scranton, and you would assume that the plot lines would go this way, that 129 something would be this way, and the plot would be, like that or whatever. This is the road. Well, what I ended up, like 2 years after we sold the thing, and I was dual agent and whatever, and we went through a title company, someone bought at tax sale this lot here. So this guy bought this for 30 grand and he borrowed 30 grand from me to rehab it. And that 30 grand I will never see again because of what I'm about to tell you. Someone bought this for 2,500, apparently smart enough to realize the plot lines go this way. So this is Hoyt Street or something street in Scranton, and that's the address, and this is where you would think all of the plots would run from. They would run vertically. Well, they don't. They apparently run horizontally from the side street. So there's an argument to be made that the person that owns this now owns the house here. And I don't know how this makes sense. My client apparently owns this or something. So there's a lawsuit and it's years and years and it's going on and whatever. But basically, we have a document that says in brief what is pretty much all understood. This went to my errors and omissions policy company and they said, even though they dropped me, they said, we're dropping you, but there's no way you could have possibly seen this coming. This was sold many times before as a double. It was listed by the county as a double. Blah, 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 blah. But we're still dropping you. So even though we did everything right, we still did everything wrong, apparently. We didn't lose any money. To my knowledge, there wasn't a payout. But we have this little document that the buyer and seller signed that says, everything we know, you know, and you accept that if you did not do a survey and it's not what you think it is, it's on you. If you did not do an inspection and it's not what you think it is, it's on you. I'm currently in the middle of this flip on Wright Street, which was supposed to be a wholesale, and it kind of went sideways, and I jumped in whatever. It's going to work out. And the thing's an onion, meaning everything we peel back, I've already replaced joists and all floors in 2 rooms. Rip them out and replace them, which is okay. The deal still works, but the point is, we want the buyer, and especially the buyer, to be, but also the seller, to be aware that we don't have knowledge beyond what any human can see when they walk through a property. So a lot of this job, and this is the stuff that I hate about this job, a lot of this job is liability protection. So what I really wanted to cover, and I don't want to drag this out too long, is sort of an opportunity for you guys, because I am back in the buying mode if deals make sense. So I wanted to kind of cover my deal analysis. If you've got a buyer that'll pay more, sell it to the buyer that'll pay more. No question. But here's what we have for now. I am in the process of developing deal analysis tools, which should be ready by about the end of the month. That I'll walk you through when they come out. We have a whole CRM that's about to be launched probably next week. We are trying to do Tuesdays at 11:30 for trainings. And if that doesn't work, let me know. We can try to move those around, but I'm trying to make it all one piece. I'm trying to make it sane on my end, I should say. This is what I do when I analyze my deal. So every rental deal, let me just do this other one here. All right, so every rental deal that I do, so I'm looking for 2 things. I'm looking for rentals, I'm looking for self-storage. Self-storage, I have a much larger geography for, pretty much anywhere on the East Coast. Might even go a little bit west, but definitely anywhere on the East Coast. But we'll stick with, and that is pretty much what I'm looking for in self-storage. Is all I need to do. If you come across another broker, you come across a direct self-storage owner, like a small ownership, remembering that, Extra Space, U-Haul, those guys, they are never going to sell. They're the ones we all sell to when it's time to retire and sell. I should say we all, because I haven't bought a unit yet, but whatever. We keep trying. We're looking to buy like Amato, A&A storage. That's going to be the biggest thing. It's going to be more like Joe's Storage, Lakeside Self-Storage, whatever. On the multifamily side, and you pretty much get me in touch with the self-storage. I'll walk you through that later, that if we get in touch with them. On the multifamily side, I use a debt service coverage ratio spreadsheet. Now, what sets me apart is that my lender does 0.75 loan to value. I do 1 loan to value, meaning my down payment must also make the interest. That's it. And I also cheat, and I beat everything up. I do 8%. I do 8% for 2 reasons. One is I know the rates aren't going to go that high, hopefully. And 2 is one of 2 things is true about the money that I'm buying with. I'm buying with money I'm taking out of the stock market, which is making about 8%. Historically has. This year is a little bit of a clusterfuck, but okay. Or I'm borrowing it against a line of credit where I'm paying 8%. So either way, there's an 8 involved. So if I know that, if I'm using 1 loan to value, that means and the value is basically the purchase price. So if the purchase price is $250,000, then I'm borrowing from some form $250,000. Now I'm usually amortizing it over 30, and I'm walking through what's behind the scenes. This isn't what you're going to run every time. All you're going to do is enter it into this, and it'll tell you whether I want to buy the deal or not. And again, I don't care if you do it or not, but this is just understanding where the deals come from. You put in your rents, you put in your everything else. This is actually, and Jose, back to a conversation you and I have had, which whenever you have time for, I'll show you, this is one of the other ways to make money with us, is helping people do debt service coverage ratio loans. I am a broker, white label correspondent, he calls it, but whatever, for Landmark Capital, which is a hedge fund. And they do DSCR loans. So we can make about a point. We would split about a point on these deals. So a $100,000 deal, we'll split $1,000. Not a lot of money, but if you can turn enough of them, it starts to become something. So you do here's your rental information. Here's your income. I am hard on my numbers. I am 10% maintenance, 10% management, 10% vacancy. Don't care. People say, oh, don't care if it does or doesn't. This is the way I make sure that I'm never going to go under. And honestly, there have been years where it's been a negative, even with all these pads. And then we fill in all the expenses. And then at the bottom of the rainbow, that has to be a 1.25 or better. If that's not a 1.25, then you don't want it. So now, what does 1.25 mean? 1.25 means that, in simple terms, if the mortgage is $1,000, they want to make sure that the money left over after all of these expenses is $1,250. That's it. They want to make sure that the income net after expenses is 1.25 the mortgage. So this one, fictitious numbers, fictitious property, doesn't mean anything, is obviously killing it. It's killing it even more because the lender doesn't want 10, 10, 10. The lender wants, at most, they want 5.55, 5%, 5%, 5%. And usually they don't even care about it being that fat. So, like, it is easy to get a property to clear on DSCR. Not so easy to get a property clear on me, but it's easier to get a property clear on DSCR. And for example, here's one that, Jose, we might actually want to sell this one. The guy wants me to partner with him. He's running out of time on his mortgage, on his flip loan. And I just don't know if I want this to be partners on this particular deal. What's
his mortgage information like? What's he owe on it, or what's his terms?
I can go into that off whatever. We're not recording. So right now he has a fix and flip loan. So really with the deals I'm going to walk through today, it's more of a flip. It's more of a getting out of the fix and flip loan horizon than anything else. So I think this one needs about 200 or something to get out from under both the little bit of money I have into it plus that one. The reason I don't want this, he's done a great job renovating. He's put new siding in, he's fixed up the foundation. He's done a great job making 2 5-bedroom units in Wilkes-Barre.
Wow.
It is ready to go, done. Everything is basically virtually complete. So like this is the roof, he didn't get to the roof, but the roof's also not leaking, so it's kind of okay. That's probably the only thing left. But when I sold him this building 2 years ago, well, there was a 12-foot hole in the foundation. There were no windows. When I bought my first building on Barney Street, this is on Rowland Street, right behind Barney, in Wilkes-Barre, this building was boarded up in a shithole. When I sold it to him 13 years later, it was boarded up in a shithole. So it's one of those. It is flood zone. It is a flood zone. It is bad flood zone. Someone's going to be carrying flood insurance or buying it for cash. But it's 10 bedrooms. And if somebody were to rent those bedrooms out for a couple $100, for $150 a month or a week rather, they're going to do real well.
Yeah. It makes more sense renting it 3 rooms and.
Yeah. I mean, and even as an individual rental, it's probably going to make $2,700 a month. 13 something aside. But yeah, I mean, it is a good investment for someone. I'm just not sure whether. I mean, a month ago I was all about it, but honestly, I'm not sure I want to partner with him, or at all. I'm not sure I want to have partners, and also I don't really know that I want this particular property, mainly because it's in flood zone. I just have, even though I own one, I have a thing against flood zones. But this was a great deal because at the expected rents, which is 13, if we did 1,300 aside, whatever, at the 0.05, and even at a whole 225,000 and 8%. Okay, at that, it only gets a 0.98 debt service coverage ratio. But if you did 75% lending and you did the 7.5 rate that exists now, that's a 1.37 debt service coverage ratio. So to the normal investor, this is a phenomenal deal. And I know because I have a 3-bedroom over on Blackman Street, also flood zone, different part of Wilkes-Barre, that appraised for 2.25. There was only 3 bedrooms each side. This is 5. I know you'll have no problem getting an appraisal on this one. So this spreadsheet, which I'll happily share with you, this spreadsheet is what I use as my Bible to run every deal. Larksville, this is another one. And this is actually he's building it to be a 4-unit, which I wasn't aware of that. And the building it to be is going to be a huge process in the basement. But when it's a 4-unit, it's going to be a lot of return because he's got 4 2-bedrooms. I'm sorry, 1, 2. No, wait. It's not 5 units, it's a 4-unit. So it's going to be a it's going, and I think he's into this one for about 266, something like that, which is even with my huge pads and the 8%, still a 1.15 DSCR. So it is a good, and this again was when I sold it to him. So if we say a 7.5 rate, it's a good deal even with my absurd pads. If we go less pads, it's a 1.4 debt service coverage ratio. This is a 4-unit, right now a 3. He wants to make the basement into a 4th. That's where we're a little bit of a crossroads. But it is a killer opportunity for somebody. Even at a 3 unit, it probably does pretty well.
Yeah.
Even a 3 unit, and for 2 bedrooms, I've only got 900. If you were, I think Kelly's got her 2 bedrooms going at 990 for 1050 now. So even if we went 995 because rents are trending down a little bit, it still does well, even as only a 3 unit. So, these are deals we could find buyers for now. They're not listed deals. Jamar is one of our agents. He doesn't want to list these. I'm pushing him into listing them because I really just don't. I don't really want to. My head can't fathom partnering anymore. Not about him, just about where I'm at. And he's also got another gut job up in Pittston that's a 4 unit that also has pretty good return numbers, 1.23, and that's with my pads.
Okay.
So when I analyze, so it's kind of a recap. So we have these 3 deals we can talk about if you've got people. But to recap for me, what I do, and I have a spreadsheet set up which shows, what you just plug in the numbers and you'll know if it's something for me. Is the end of the day, I got to be able to take a third off the top for maintenance, vacancy management, and it's still got to make a 1.25 DSCR or a 12 cap. Usually those two kind of go roughly hand in hand. So I'm actively here to be a buyer as well, but I'm going to be a lot more savage than pretty much anyone else And when it comes to self-storage, because the numbers are bigger, bluntly, there's 2 ways to get paid. You will get commission. That's always, you get commission. But potentially there's a way of also becoming part owner of the deal, and becoming part owner of the self-storage. So we could also float that out there. And also I'm a member of probably the country's largest self-storage community. And there are buyers out there for self-storage nationwide. And they will pay sometimes $25,000, $35,000 wholesale fees, which may or may not be the same as the commission. But the point is, self-storage is a business where there's still a lot of money available for buying. So I just mostly wanted to cover sort of the systematic as well, the systematic on, processing of the deal. So it's important backing up to, because I know that Stephanie didn't make it on this call. So we need to always do our buyer agency agreements. And if the buyer won't do them, we don't help them, basically. This buyer, and then separately from that, we have to do all of our paperwork, because if we get visited, and I've been visited by the state, we have to be able to pull out that stack of paperwork. And I was visited by the state last summer. Ryan and I got called, well, didn't get called in. The state came here on a wholesale before the wholesale law even, it existed, but hadn't come into effect yet, because a wholesale seller that went dark on us, we were about to close on her property and she went dark. She called the state and reported us for something. Even the state examiner couldn't tell me what law I could possibly have broken, because wholesale wasn't regulated. But whatever, he had to come here. And I had to walk him through the whole transaction, and he had 1,001 questions. I was in with Ryan. Ryan was not in when I was being interviewed. I was allowed to be there as Ryan's broker, but not the other way around. And I had to give him the 6 inches of, documentation. And we even got questioned to the point of, he's like, "So you sued the lady?" I said, "Yes, I did." "Why did you sue the lady?" I said, "Because I was going to make $15,000 on the deal, and I'd lost money on it because I'd actually spent money on her. And I wanted to either recover the money or at least close the book." And he's like, "How come you didn't go to it got continued and transferred to another court?" And I said, "I never get notified, got transferred to another court." He's like, "I'm not surprised with that court." But it was a bit of a process. And the only reason we won or got, exonerated, was A, the wholesale wasn't covered at the time, but B, I just buried him in paperwork. I had screenshots of text messages printed out. I had screenshots of emails printed out. I had pictures of the things that I posted on her door. I printed out the pictures of what I posted on her door saying, "Hey, we're trying to reach you to help you to do what you said you would accomplish." So paperwork and paper trail is everything. with our new CRM, which I hope to show in the next couple of weeks, we have so paperless pipeline in the next 90 days or so is going to get replaced by everything is going to be in Zoho, our CRM and all of our activities. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover sort of that, how important paperwork was. Jose, once you get me that stuff on whatever it's called, Matthews, we can get that put to bed. And also sort of what I'm looking for in rentals. I am looking primarily for, so I have half my money I want to keep in Luzerne County, Lower Lackawanna, Upper Luzerne. Keep that with Crimson Cape. Keep Kelly managing that. The other half I'd like to, but if there's another market that's better, I'm certainly willing to go there. So, basically keep an eye out for rentals, for value deals. I will do value adds. I don't enjoy big flips. I do not enjoy what I'm doing in Duryea. We're literally bringing the house back to life. So the last thing is Duryea. If you have a buyer for a completely renovate, if you have a buyer A for someone who wants to take over this thing mid-flip, that's one. B for a buyer who wants a completely renovated, literally roof to heating system. It's getting a new roof next week. It's getting 2 of the rooms. We had to remove the floor joists and replace them because they were 2x6s going 16 feet. They just weren't right. It's getting all new electric with electric heat. It's getting a granite kitchen. It's getting, new flooring, yada, 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 new bathroom. Everything is going to be as new as it's going to get in an old home. And we're probably going to look for around 185 on that. So if you have any single family and buyers, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so any questions, anything you want me to put on future trainings or anything like that?
Yeah, the buyer for 74 Matthew, he just called me. I checked his text messages. He said he wants to go see it today. Do I just tell him, yeah, let's go later? Or his contractor went that Sunday. I think it was like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 weeks ago before we did the highest and best. He said they were still taking it and they're doing it as is. But he just called me and texted me saying if he's a managing of an LLC that they're using. So he said that he wants to see it. Would it be possible today?
Okay, so that's fine if you can arrange to have him see it. But before we have her sign it, is it contingent on him seeing it?
No.
Text him back and be very clear. Does this change the offer?
No, it doesn't. When I told him, is it contingent on your contractor seeing it? He said no. We're still gonna take it as is. He said he just texted me saying, "Please get back to me as soon as you can. I want to get this locked in if possible. The viewing, I mean."
Yeah, I mean, if you can get him in there, that's great. Go for it. But just text it back and say, "Please remember, the seller is probably signing your offer today.
Okay.
If you don't like be real blunt. If you don't like what you see, you're still buying it, correct? And get that commitment."
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna text him right now, and I'll text you what he says.
Yeah, because that would be bad. So all right, so if you and also sort of remind him where that last document is, so we can get the stuff over to her and we can get it all signed up.
Yeah, I'm gonna text him that as well when we end this because.
And do you want
I'm waiting on that. That's the whole thing I'm waiting for is the seller's disclosure for him to sign and the buyer's estimated closing costs, and that's it.
Yeah. And also, like, if you want to have him give you the check when you meet, if he wants to wire the money, if he wants to come down to the office, that's fine. Whatever, just let me know. Any of the above is fine.
All right. I'll tell him if he said he could print out the check. I think he had like the machine. He said he could print out the check. I'm like, I'll show you, but if you want, I'll bring the deposit. If you still want to move, bring the deposit.
Great. Yeah, and like if you just, if in terms of logistics of you driving down here, like if it gets later in the day and you get the check and you just send me a picture of it and then you get it down to me tomorrow, that's fine. Remember, I have 24 hours from receiving the deposit check. So he has 5 days. Don't tell him. Don't.
Yeah.
We want to get the check from him sooner, but he has 5 days from her signing the agreement to get us the check. But if you get the check, the point is within 24 hours of you getting it, I have to deposit it.
That's fine.
So all right, sounds good, man. I guess that's it, and I think we're in good shape from there.
Absolutely, man. So I'll let you know what that guy says. I'm gonna text him now, and I'll keep you on the loop.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
You have a good day, all right, man?
Thanks. Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.